Hi,
Becky, how you doing?
I'm not hearing you.
Oh, hold on here. Let's see here. Can you hear me now? Oh, hold on, it's connecting. Can you hear me now?
I hear you, Eric.
You hear me? Can you hear me, Becky?
This was Linda, but I hear you.
Becky's saying she can't hear me. Can you hear me, Becky?
Oh.
I'm gonna send something in the chat to her.
Are you, Eric, say something.
You hear me now?
Yep, I got you.
All right, good. I was just gonna send you a message. Cool.
I just had to change my speakers.
Wait a few minutes for everybody to get on here. Got a few more. Betsy's on. I think we got Kathy and Amanda. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'll just keep my eyes open if anybody else. So I welcome you guys for being on here. Thanks for being on. I know it's a beautiful evening. There's a lot of other things you could be doing. So appreciate your time tonight and really want to address nutrition because I know being in personal training for 27 years, this is the make or break thing for most people. A lot of people go to the gym and put the time in the gym, but then they don't see their bodies change the way they want. And this is usually where the rubber meets the road. You know, every once in a while you got some kind of weird hormonal thing, but a lot of times when we dig deep with nutrition, there's stuff that isn't getting done or stuff people are doing unknowingly and sabotaging themselves. So I want to bring my 27 years experience of working in this field and then, you know, combine with the latest science and stuff that I've seen on it to, you know, bring some truth here. And hopefully you guys will get some good aha moments when this thing is done. And I'm going to go ahead and attack some sacred cows right away out of the gate. So there's these sacred cows out there, and a lot of people still really kind of cling to these things, you know, and think about a, you know, sacred cow, like from the Bible. It was like an idol. It didn't do anything. And that's what these things are. A lot of people have really kind of owned these things and they still adhere to these things, even though when they do these things, they don't get any long-term lasting results. You know, we've been always told, and this is what I was told coming out of college, is it's all about calories in, calories out. But I can tell you, I look at a lot of food journals where people are not eating a lot of calories, but yet they're still carrying a lot of body fat. And I have a person I'm coaching right now who did it this way for many years. And every time she did it, she'd lose weight, but then she'd be cranky, she'd be tired, and she would feel hungry. And it was like she was white knuckling it. And what we want to talk about here tonight is like, how do we get on top of this thing so we don't have to keep going back to the same thing that's not getting us results, which is the definition of insanity. It has to be long-term sustainable. And the problem with even cutting calories is at some point, you can only cut your calories so far and you start digging into your body's just basic minimum to maintain itself. When your body sees that, when your calories are too low, it goes into it. Your body's wired for survival. And what you got to understand about that is when your body thinks that you're in survival mode, it's going to conserve calories. If you get too low, your body's going to think literally like you're out lost in the Alaskan wilderness or something. So it's going to slow things down. It's going to lower a hormone called leptin will lower. And that's where you get this metabolic slowdown that a lot of people experience after a while. It works at first, but then all they do is get hungry and they start to hit that plateau. And a lot of times when you just go the cutting calories route, it sets you up for the big yo-yo rebound. Is you're going to cut so many calories that you're going to start eating up muscle tissue. When you do that, you lose calories that your body actually has to, so muscle tissue has something that requires calories to maintain. Fat does not. So if you start losing muscle tissue, you're basically sabotaging your metabolism, so you lose 5 pounds of muscle, your metabolism is that much slower. And that's why you see a lot of people that come off these low calorie diets gain so much weight back. So that is not calories are important to a point, but a lot of people, I don't know who decided that 1,200 calories was every woman had to do 1,200 calories to lose weight. And I see a lot of women that are eating way less than they should be. We've seen it in our nutrition coaching program. Even our own staff member, Tracy, figured out she wasn't eating enough. And a lot of people say that's too many calories, but then they start eating more and it's almost like it fuels up their metabolism. So low calories, and then you always have to look at like, what are you doing throughout the day? I've had a rash of people lately who are very active people and they eat low calorie, but they're carrying body fat, they're not losing body fat. So, the end result is not there. And so it's not just about calories. If it was just simply calories in, calories out, this would be an easy, short seminar. And then there's the other, the carb phobia that we have out there. Everybody's trying to do like a keto or low carb. Everybody thinks that's the default way to lose body fat. And yes, carbohydrates are important because they are the ones that can drive up your blood sugar the fastest and they can create insulin resistance. But most people just think all carbs are evil and they try to avoid carbs like the plague. And funny thing I notice is a lot of people come in, they say they're on a low carb eating plan and a lot of them are overweight. And I had a woman that trained online and she would do this all the time and her weight would go up and down. And she actually gained, just because she was eating so few carbs, I think her body was just so out of whack. She actually gained 60 pounds during COVID, 60 pounds back, so this low carb thing, one, you just can't perform as well on carbs. Most people tell me they want to get toned and lean. So that means you're going to put on some muscle. I know women don't like to hear that, but putting on muscle actually is what makes you look lean. And you're not going to bulk up like a bodybuilder. Women have a fraction of what men have for testosterone, but it's really, really hard to do that with carbohydrates. And it's really hard to perform, especially if you like to do active things, which most people do. You're going to find yourself kind of dragging. And carbohydrates help mitigate cortisol levels. And so they can actually help lower cortisol levels. And I'm going to get to cortisol, but people don't really realize that when you go low carbs all the time, it can be very stressful on the body. And stress is not a good thing when it comes to fat loss. The other thing kind of goes hand in hand with this is usually a combination of two things. I'm going to cut all my carbs and I'm going to do lots of cardio. That's been beaten into our heads that cardio is the only way to lose weight. And really, I think it's the least important. I've seen people get plenty lean without a lot of cardio. And I think it's been driven by the gyms and the big commercial gyms and the equipment manufacturers that everybody needs a treadmill in their house. Everybody needs to do tons of cardio. I think cardio is important to keep your heart strong and to help you get some activity during the day, but it's not the end all be all. And the problem with cardio is it doesn't change the way your body looks. If you think of somebody who loses weight just doing cardio and cutting calories, and maybe they were a pear shape before, they just become a smaller pear shape. It doesn't recontour your body like strength training does. And once again, a lot of cardio will cause you to lose muscle. So I can even talk about this just recently. A lot of people just go overboard on this because I think, American culture is more is better. So I have a client I just signed up who's a cardio nut, and I've got her off of this now. She was doing probably 6 days a week, at least of cardio, sometimes twice a day. And she's not where she wants to be. She's not happy with the way she wants to look, but yet she's in all these biking clubs and everything like that. And she's not happy with it. And by cutting, every time she cuts back, she'd notice her body, she would lose weight. So too much of anything is not a good thing. It's like a dose. So I don't think doing a ton of cardio, what I've seen, and I've prepared people for getting on stage, which is like the ultimate lean tone look. And we don't overemphasize cardio. It's part of the program, but it's not the main thing. And if you've ever known, a lot of people, when they train for marathons and high endurance events, a lot of times they end up gaining weight because it is very stressful on the body, to do tons and tons of cardio. So not a good approach. I think a moderate amount of cardio is okay, but anything like where you're just thinking you have to do it every day, especially high intensity cardio, you can have you can overstress the body. And once again, like I said, stressed out bodies do not lose body fat. And then finally, the next magic bullet diet. So people will jump on this. I mean, I'm on this diet, I'm going to do this one. And the mindset there is the real problem is you're just looking for a magic bullet. It's like putting a piece of tape over a check engine light. I have a client who will do it and she knows I don't like this, but she does it anyway. She gets on, I think it's Jenny Craig or one of those things. Jenny Craig or Nutrisystem, it's one of those. She loses the weight, but she doesn't deal with any of her habits. And it's like clockwork. She loses the weight, keeps it out for maybe about a month or two, and then it all comes back on. And it's kind of like, just like putting a piece of tape over the check engine, like, wouldn't you want to get to the core, what are the problems? So you don't have to keep fixing it. It's kind of like, you're kind of like putting a piece of tape over a leaky pipe. Instead of that, replace the pipe, fix the problem so it can be done and over with. So I always think diets never teach habits. What people do with diets is they just follow them. They don't learn anything. They just follow this diet blindly, and doesn't teach them anything. So there's never any move forward. It's just like they go on the diet, go back to doing what they were doing before, gain the weight back, get frustrated, go on the diet, go back on, or a different diet. And, they believe that they failed the diet when these diets fail them, because they don't really teach anything. A lot of them, they're just, they work for the short term, but I'm talking about long-term solutions here tonight. So here's the reality check, what really works. And this is what science shows too. My precision nutrition coaching certification, they're really based on like human behavior. Yeah, we talk about physiology and stuff of food, but what really works is focusing on habits. I look at habits are like, it's like you're building a foundation. Every habit you put in is like a solid brick in the foundation of your nutrition. So I even look at a lot of things I do and they're subconscious. I don't have to think about them. Whereas like when I'm teaching a client, they really have to think about them. And it's a lot like when you first learn to drive a car, but if you're patient, after a while, they become almost automated. It's just something you do and you don't have to think so hard about it. Like you do, like when you jump on a diet, you have to think about, a lot of people are like trying to get the right kind of foods and follow this diet plan versus when you have habits go with you for the rest of your life. And that's why I really believe in starting to build habits. And that way it's just, there's more of a flow to it. I know with our nutrition coaching program, it was cool to see as we got, over a month into it, people were like, you know what, this is actually working really good now. At the beginning, I really had to think about this and make these adjustments, but now it's just, I'm in a flow. And that's what habits will do. And that's where that's what diets don't do. Is so we want to be habit focused versus, just calorie or follow this diet focused. One big problem is the consistency. People are either hot or cold. I'd prefer you to be warm, knowing that you don't have to be perfect. And all the time we hear about people that try to be perfect, and as soon as they mess up, here comes the negative self-talk. Here comes the screw this mentality. I'm done with this. And they beat themselves up and they start to self-flagellate. Perfection never works. It's a bad strategy. Every single client we've had that has had good results, it was consistent. None of them were perfect. And I can tell you this, I don't want them to be perfect, because when I see somebody trying to shoot for perfection, I actually, sometimes people think I'm actually going to get on them about having an off day. I actually want to see off days once in a while, because that means you're not trying to be perfect. Because I know, like from my own experience, the first time I ever did a really strict diet was when I did my first bodybuilding show. I went 12 weeks in a row. I didn't cheat a single time. And guess what happened after that show was over? I went crazy. And I was like eating everything in the farm. It was like the dam had built up and was going to break. And I've seen other people do this too, even when I've warned them about it. And so the lesson there is not trying to be perfect, but just get to consistent. And that goes into number 3, is getting into a rhythm. Your body likes circadian rhythms. So you can think about, maybe examples are like, you get up at a certain time every day, and sometimes on the weekend when you try to sleep in, your body will actually wake you up, and you get up, your body's used to that rhythm. Your body likes things into rhythm. Your brain recognizes rhythms. So what I tell people is, most people's eating is random and disordered, is get it to structured and consistent. Like you're eating a lot of the similar things at similar times. It sounds boring, but boring gets results. People are, a lot of times when you look at somebody's food, the problem is one day I eat breakfast at 6, the next day I eat at 9. Sometimes I have breakfast, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I have dinner, sometimes I don't. I skipped lunch today. No, I had lunch and I ran through Subway. It's just all over the place. It's like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. It's just this random, crazy mess of things versus when you see people get into a structured and they start doing things consistently, similar things, boring gets success. I'm not going to give you anything that I'm not going to tell you like there's a specific food out there, but eating good food consistently throughout the day and having a couple staples, maybe you rotate between and not going too far is going to work a lot better than and especially most of us are really busy. I don't know too many clients that have a lot of time to cook and try all kinds of different recipes during the day. So even, vary it up a little bit at dinner, but try to get your body. It's really important to get your body into a rhythm. I learned that back in my 20s, and that's a key thing is when I see clients starting to eat consistently at the same times and not skipping meals and not like another one is sometimes they have a really weak breakfast and then they eat most of their calories at night, is their meals are equally spaced out. They're not, one meal is not super dominant over another. That's your body seems to really respond to that. And that's just what I've seen in 27 years of practice. I'm not going to cite some scientific study or something. That's just what works. That's what for most people works. How many times a day you eat is really up to the person. Some people do great with 3 times, other with 5, other with 6. You kind of have to figure that out. There's no right or wrong there, but whatever it is, you want to be consistent with it. And then proactive versus reactive. This is a big one. If everybody were to take the time on the weekends or whenever they have off, some people don't work on the weekends, so I shouldn't say the weekends, but is to plan to go shopping, have good things ready to go, and to have a plan ready to go. So even the night before, thinking about what's my day like? Am I going to be out and about driving around to appointments, or am I going to be in my office? Okay, how am I going to manage that? And a lot of people, what they do is it's like playing from behind. Even with the MyFitnessPal app or logging their food, they log their food from behind. They're good. They log their food, but they're just logging it as the day goes on versus I like people to log their food if they're using FitnessPal the day ahead of time to just see how it all shakes out, to have a game plan ready to go instead of just kind of react to the day and go through the day. So being proactive is a big step, and that mostly comes from prepping and planning ahead of time and then having stuff ready to go the day before instead of getting into the day and going, oh, I never really thought what I'm going to have for lunch today. And I don't have anything packed, so I guess I got to go get something quick and easy. And most of the quick and easy stuff is not going to be great for you. There are better choices than others, but I tell people, if you really want to see your body change, you can't just say, I'm just going to go to Chipotle every day and I'm going to get the low carb bowl, because a lot of those restaurants, even though they have better options available, there's still fillers, there's still preservatives and additives. You don't know what they're putting in there. So if you want the best results, you're going to have to learn to okay, I'm going to have to prepare some food. You don't have to be a gourmet cook, but anybody can cook a burger on the grill or, grill a chicken breast, cook up some rice or some potatoes. Those are pretty basic things that are good staples to go from. And so having that ready ahead of time is huge. And a lot of people use the excuse, well, I'm really busy. And it's like you make time for what's important. And simply put is, I know I've been out doing my grill like 10 o'clock at night sometimes before the week starts, because I know if I get into my week and I don't have stuff ready to go, I'm kind of screwed. And so I tell clients that if you can do that one thing, that is a big game changer for you. And then whatever people always say, well, I don't want to check my food, I don't want to do this. It's like, what would you do with your bank account if you never looked at your bank account? I don't know anybody who wouldn't do that. Back in the day, we had the checking account book. If you never paid attention to what was going in and out of your bank account, it wouldn't go well. So I don't know how people feel like they can actually make good decisions, objective decisions based on real life data if they don't have any good data. Like I have a business, and if I don't have numbers in front of me, I don't know what's going on in my business. But people want to get specific results. I want to get my clothes, I want to get down to a size 2, I want to get a certain body fat percentage. You can't get specific results with a random approach, and a lot of people want to do it that way. And it's like, I would really like to, and the thing with FitnessPal is it's not 100% accurate, but it gives us some good insight to what is actually going on instead of this, it's all up here in my head. Well, there's a lot of other things up in your head. So it's really important if you're going to do something if you're going to make some significant improvements in an area, and if this is a big area, which I think it's like at least 80% of your results, I would put some effort into tracking it. And it doesn't have to be MyFitnessPal, it could be writing it down, but it's important because you can start to see things. Like I know I look at when people do this, I can actually pick things out right away. I'm coaching a woman right now who is going to a local club and was promised nutrition coaching and never got it. So her husband nutrition coach is with me. And I think it was about a month ago, she signed up with me for nutrition coaching. And I looked at her food, and within 5 minutes, I figured out the problem. Well, today we did our nutrition coaching call, and she said, I'm down 10 pounds. I took a side profile the first day we started coaching. She goes, it is night and day. Just by 5 minutes, because she was good about tracking, and I could figure out, boom, here's what's going on right here. And it was one thing we focused on, and she's down 10 pounds. We measure next week. She'll probably be our client of the week next week. So I like to feature our nutrition, not just our training clients. But if she wasn't tracking, it would have been it would have been really hard for me to really know what was going on, because she might, like a lot of people, they sometimes hold back on stuff because she had it all out there for me to see. It was really easy to fix the problem. Balanced nutrients versus eliminating one. That's a big one too. Is like, I go back to like the 90s when low fat, if eliminating nutrients was a effective strategy, why has our obesity rate and our overweight percentage climbed? We're at like almost 1 in 3 people are clinically obese in our country right now. That's pretty sad. And 75% are overweight. So the majority of our people are having an issue with this. So if low fat worked and low carb worked, then why is that an issue? I know I did an experiment when I was in college, and I tried to take all the fat out of my diet. I felt like complete garbage. It lasted about 1 or 2 days, and I realized this is really stupid. Each macronutrient is important to generate energy. And if you don't have any energy and your brain is not working, which if you take fat or carbohydrates down too low, that's what's going to happen. It's hard to function as a human being. You can't stay there, and it's all of them have a role to play in your body. Like for instance, fat, people are like so fatophobic, like for guys, cholesterol, everyone hears cholesterol and they go, ooh, that's scary. Well, cholesterol is needed to produce testosterone. And what's the big problem in men? Low testosterone. And so when we avoid like cholesterol, like the plague, that's impeding our body's ability to produce cholesterol, or produce testosterone, excuse me. Then you got carbs. Your brain feeds off of glucose. Well, if you start taking carbs away, now you get brain, you're not going to be as effective. Your brain is not going to be as effective as it could be without some carbohydrates. So like eliminating a nutrient is not a good thing. They all have a role to play. And then finally, accountability is such an important thing. I just say that over and over again. So I just relate this the other day as I had a conversation with a client who has kind of fallen off from her accountability with her coaching and I started talking to her, and she said something about, I said, well, maybe we should take you in for some blood work if this is really going on. And she fessed up to me that she hasn't been on track as much as she should have been. And that has led to her going backwards. And, that's because she's gotten out from under accountability in this department. And that I think is really important. I mean, when you have to check in with somebody and you have to give account, most people are going to come through. It's an integrity thing. I think a lot of people want to have integrity, so they're going to do what they're told to do, and they're going to follow through. And if they don't, they don't want to have to give that report. Nobody likes to give a bad report, but there's something about that. I mean, everyone thinks, well, you're a coach, and I'm like, coaches, I have a coach too, and she keeps me accountable. And I think we all do better with accountability. We can always rationalize things out and procrastinate and give ourselves excuses to not do something, or why today. We can talk ourselves in or out of something. So accountability is an important part. I think that's what really works for a lot of people, because I hear a lot of people tell me how, I've seen this so many times, just to be frank, a lot of people tell me how good they eat and how disciplined they are. And then they start actually showing me what they're doing. And I'm like, not even close, and they've been telling themselves this for a long time, and there's stuff in there, and they're like, oh yeah, well, I forgot about having 3 glasses of wine every night. Oh, and then I have sugar every day. And, they've kind of BS themselves. So frankly, that, accountability just, it lays it all out there bare. So these are the things that I feel like really work in the long term, and I just think I've seen people do it. The famous one is, I've seen people, this is probably the hardest thing, just to confession time as a trainer. One of the hardest things to do is when you see somebody who's not getting it done, say, I'm going to try it on my own. It's like famous last words, because you know what's going to happen. And I had a woman I coached who said she was going to lose weight on her own, and she's done a really poor job of doing it on her own. But I'm like, you got to let them go and find out the hard way. It's kind of like letting your kid fall on their face, because you know what's going to happen. Some people, what, they're good to go. But a lot of people I see like try that. I just know what's going to happen and I just have to let it go. But it's hard to watch, because it's not going to go well for them. So we're going to focus on hormones a little bit, because this is an important part. So this woman I talked about, I just started coaching 4 weeks ago. This is where we started. Her calories weren't bad at all, but this number one was her big rock. Is this picture on the right is a demonstration of probably where the right side of this picture is where a lot of Americans are at. And it's from years and years of eating processed carbohydrates, probably drinking alcohol too frequently. Not like everybody's an alcoholic, but a lot of people like to social drink, and that kind of starts creeping up to maybe 3 nights a week, or having a glass of wine to relax every night, or just being on the go and just grabbing things and not being mindful of what they're putting in their mouth. And that leads to the right side, which when we eat lots of sugar and processed carbohydrates, because processed carbohydrates break down a lot of times faster than sugar. So I'm talking about like pretzels or things in a box, or things that you can make really quick. They're convenient and you make quick, but because they cook quick, they break down quick, a lot like sugar. And what that does is, some of you guys have already talked about this, but I got to keep pounding this into people's head, because this is a lot of reason I think America has the problem it has is it drives up your blood sugar fast. So when your blood sugar goes up fast, your body has to release, your pancreas has to release a lot of insulin to get that blood sugar under control. And it really looks almost like a roller coaster. As that blood sugar goes up and it peaks out, the insulin comes in and it drops it, just like a roller coaster. And that's where you start to feel that energy crash. You get hungry, you have cravings, especially in the evening, and you start to really put on weight, especially around the midsection and the upper back. And that's really a sign that your insulin levels are probably chronically high. And that in that state, it doesn't matter how hard you work out, you're not going to lose body fat. I just listened to a scientist talk about this. They were doing this with rats, and they were messing with their insulin levels. And they said, as soon as they raised the insulin levels up, it didn't matter what they did, they would actually, they couldn't lose fat. As soon as they dropped their insulin levels, the fat came off. And that's what I did with this woman here, is that we got her nutrition under control. She was doing every day, she was eating a lot of healthy stuff, but she was doing a Starbucks drink every day with just loaded with sugar. And there's other things with sugar. So the first order of business was to get her insulin under control. And we did that by obviously getting rid of the sugar and the processed carbs, but also getting her to eat more protein at every single meal. And protein, for women, one egg isn't enough. 20 to 30 grams is really what you need, I feel like, to really be a good shot at protein. Protein actually slows down the emptying time of a meal. So even if you do eat something that's a little bit maybe questionable, with protein, it actually slows down the emptying time, which slows down a blood sugar spike, which lowers the insulin. When the insulin's lower, your body can burn fat. So protein at every meal, 20 to 30 grams at a meal for women, 30 to 40 for men, and then 10 to 20 grams at a snack for women, and about 20 to 30 grams at a snack for men. So protein is, it slows it down because your body has to work hard to break it down. It also stimulates your metabolism, because your body has to burn calories to actually process protein. So that's important, and it gives you a full feeling. And so that's why we just harp on protein so much. And then exercise is also important too, because what happens is your muscles are like a sponge, right? And carbohydrates are like water. And when you think about carbohydrates, a lot of people are walking around, they're like a sponge that's completely full of water. And if you pour more water on the sponge, that sponge kind of spills off over the side. That's what happens on the right side of this picture here, is that spillover creates that extra fat gain, because your body's, it has a lot of sugar coming through the bloodstream, and the muscle cells are saturated. They become desensitized, because on the left side, you should be putting that carbohydrate in the muscle cells in the liver for energy. Well, if that's saturated, and then plus if you're doing tons of carbohydrates or tons of processed carbohydrates, that becomes desensitized, and you can't get the sugar into the muscle cells. So it's got to be stored somewhere. So it only has one option. That's the fat cells, kind of like a warehouse. And that's around the midsection and the upper back. So you see this. So that's the easiest way to attack this. The other ways are a little bit more subjective. So stress, everybody has stress. And I think it really comes down to how are you dealing with your stress? Because a lot of people are waiting for the magic unicorn to take the stress away. It's not going to go away. So how are we dealing with it? And exercise is one way, but I'm really a big believer in, okay, you can't go hardcore training every single day. You can't drive hard. You got to give your body downtime. And that actually works for your fat loss. I've been having to really kind of dial some people back that I train, because in their minds, they got to kick their butts every single day. And really that can be very counterproductive. I have a couple people, actually I have one that I sent for blood work, and the blood work supports that's what's going on. And then inflammation in the body. If you've got inflammation, and that a lot of times correlates with eating some of these foods, if you're eating processed foods, if you're doing a lot of vegetable oils, things like that. If you've got joints, and you're not doing good mobility and movement work on them, you guys that have trained with us know that we like to have you warm up and do some mobility and some activation, Z health, all this stuff we do. The point of that is to make you move better so that you're not inflaming your joints, your body's moving better, so you're mechanically more sound. And so all that works into decreased physical stress in the body, decrease inflammation. Those things can actually feed into to insulin issues. And I have a guy I train right now, and he's very good with his nutrition. He's good at exercising, but right now they're having a lot of stress in their family business. And I know he takes good supplements and everything. So we're really focusing on stress. We've actually cut his training back so he can recover. And I'm having him do some mellow out things on his days he's not training, because we did a measure in last time and he lost weight, but his body fat went up, which tells me he's losing muscle. So it told me that his body's almost stressed, and he actually agreed with me. I can just tell from what he's telling me what's going on with their business is sometimes less is more, and people have a hard time with that. But sometimes you got to cut back on the exercise, or maybe instead of, doing a HIIT workout, it's go for a walk. Or, like one of my clients is really buying into this now. It's like she said today, her shoulder hurt. She got up, she felt like crap. She said, all I did today was I stretched and I did a light walk. And I said, that's good. Live to fight another day. Don't go try to force a tough workout on that. You're just going to throw gasoline on the fire. Stress, and like I said, stress is not a good thing. And this is one of the big reasons why, is it feeds into that insulin resistance loop. And we want good insulin sensitivity, which is going to help us lose body fat. So good protein, minimize processed carbohydrates and sugar, work on your stress. So I know Betsy's on here. Betsy does Tai Chi, which is awesome. Finding things like that are going to help your fat loss. Yoga, Tai Chi, meditation, even just going for a walk in nature, whatever it is that gets you, kind of grounds you. I know one thing I've fessed up is, like, somebody asked me today, like one of my clients said, why are you so tan? I said, well, I go to the fake bake twice a week because nobody can find me and I can get a power nap. But I took it away and I realized, like, you know what? On my busiest days at the gym, when I can't go home, I go over there and I get a 15-minute power nap, and just kind of that feeling, that warmth, especially in the winter, is it resets my stress button. So I keep that thing over there for that reason. So, whatever it is, whatever works for you, there's no right or wrong answer, but, exercise is a good outlet, but remember, like, hard training is stress. So making sure you have some yin, hard training, and some yang, some like stuff that's going to help relax your body too. It's not going to just, everything doesn't have to be hardcore. Other hormones to focus on is the I'm hungry hormone, ghrelin. So maybe you've ever noticed when you've been sleep deprived, you're going to find that you're going to typically be more hungry, more prone to cravings. And that's because when you are sleep deprived and stressed, you're going to drive up your hormone ghrelin, which is I'm hungry. That's why a lot of times you crave or you stress eat. When you're not sleeping and you're stressed out, that hormone is going to drive up. Leptin is the I'm full hormone. That's the one we want to keep high, and we want to keep it sensitive. So it actually works good with when we keep our insulin working good, it works. Our leptin generally works good too. But the other thing is, one thing that this drops leptin down is low calories for a long period of time. So I'm a big believer in refeed days. I don't like to call them cheat days anymore. I used to call them that because cheat implies you're doing something wrong. But a refeed day is a strategic day where I'm going to eat more calories. I'm going to even have a few things I like to enjoy. And I'm not going off my plan. This is part of my plan, because when I do those things, I keep my I don't go low calorie forever for weeks on end. That actually sabotages leptin, which is a big reason of when that's low, that means you're probably not losing fat. And they're actually saying leptin might be the biggest indicator of body composition right now, more so than insulin. So there's a lot of stuff coming out on that. But I do know that this is one thing about structured refeed days that are important. And we actually use those with physique training. I just had a girl, some of you guys might have saw her on social media, did her first bikini show. And this was part of her plan, was refeed days. People are like, how do you get that lean? Did you cut your carbs? Did you do this? Well, yeah, we did some of that, but we also did refeed days because it kept her sane, and it kept her metabolism from shutting down on us. Cortisol, everyone hears that word and it's bad. Cortisol is not a bad hormone. It's just if we have chronic stress that we're not dealing with, if we're constantly in fight or flight, that is going to catabolize our muscle, or basically going to eat up our muscle tissue. When our cortisol is high, we're not going to burn body fat. And it's like almost like eating a sugar donut if you have chronically high cortisol, even if you're not cortisol. So we want to make sure that we're in fight or flight, yes, during our workouts, and probably maybe sometimes we're dealing with something at work, but once again, it goes back to stress. Are we doing things to get ourselves in the opposite of that, which is I call the rest or digest system, which is called our parasympathetic nervous system. And we don't want to be in fight or flight all the time. So part of that is, making sure that we don't overschedule ourselves, that we do a better job of giving ourselves time, learn to say no, or put boundaries up. And then also have those downtimes. I know one of my clients I talked to today, one of the things I noticed is he gets stressed really easily. And when he gets stressed, guess what? His eating goes right out the window. He knows what to eat. When he's on, he can hit his macronutrition targets. He can hit his targets. But I've realized coaching him is he needs, and I told him today, I said, you can't always be about work and working out and nutrition. I said, if you are always in that mode, you're always stressed out about what you're eating. So one of the things I encouraged him to do this weekend was take his jet ski out and go have some fun and just take a break. Like when I notice when people obsess about what they're eating and working out all the time, it drives this thing up too. So having downtime is important. It doesn't sound like that would be like you thought, I want you to do 5 hits a week, but this is something I'm seeing more and more of. What's just destroying people's nutrition is when your cortisol is chronically high, you're going to be more prone to want to eat the sugar and the carbs. And so part of your nutrition strategy is not even really talking about nutrition. It's making sure you're taking breaks from life and enjoying life a little bit and finding things to get your body into a positive state. And it might even just hanging out with a friend. It might, like, I know a couple of people have talked about, hanging out on their back patio. They've set up a nice little environment. They read their book, whatever it is. These are things that control these hormones and put them in a better place. And then the last two I'll talk about is human growth hormone and testosterone. So women sometimes they don't think about themselves having testosterone, but testosterone is important because it helps us keep muscle. It also helps us burn fat, and it also helps us recover. And it gives us our drive, our motivational drive to, get after it. And women don't have as much as men, but it's an important one. It's probably more so for women. It's human growth hormone, which helps heal our bodies and helps us to boost our metabolism and burn fat. And one of the big things that's going to drive these two to be healthy is going to be making sure we're getting a good night's sleep consistently. I never say every night's not going to be perfect, but really making sleep a priority. These are probably the best thing you can do to address these two things. Human growth hormone will go up with high intensity workouts. So doing some of those during the week are important, and you're getting your heart rate up. So, I would say no more than 4 a week. 2 to 4 in high intensity type activities a week is going to boost your human growth hormone. And then some intermittent fasting can do that too as well. But I caution people against doing that right away. I always say go back to the basics, is get your food into a rhythm, get your meals balanced. Don't go right into intermittent fasting, because I think, if I'm looking at trying to change things, and I'll get into this a little more later, I'm going to say what's one thing that's going to help human growth hormone. It's going to help a lot of these hormones. I would probably go after sleep before I would look about intermittent fasting. A lot of people go to that because it's been kind of put out there as a way to lose fat, and people will default to that. Whereas, like, what good does intermittent fasting do if your sleep sucks? You're kind of like beating your head against the wall. So deal with the sleep first, but down the road, fasting can be another way to get that human growth hormone up. And then the other thing I'm going to talk about, this is the thing I mentioned, this is the part no one talks about with nutrition. People they go see a dietitian and nutritionist, and they get a prescription of, here's a good nutrition plan. All right, go follow it. Right. Then that's it they get a lot of times. They don't see anything. We realize that ongoing mindset stuff is really, really important. This is the make or break, I think, with nutrition. I talked about my client I was just telling you about, is when his stress level climbs up, it all goes out the window. And a lot of times it's because we're not winning the battles in our mind. That's causing us to go off plan and, binge eat and, just give in and totally fall apart. So we have to work on our mind like we do a muscle. And so here's a few things I talk about: taking out the head trash. So start watching yourself on these things. And some of you guys have heard, maybe, I think Betsy, I know you've heard me talk about this, but powerful versus powerless language. All right. This is a big one. I hear people say this all the time is, I can't eat that, or I can't exercise in the morning. It's not, I can't. What you're saying is I won't, and saying I can't, like, okay, well, if you're in a wheelchair, you can't walk, but I can't when you're perfectly fine and you just don't want to get up in the morning. That doesn't mean you can't. It just means you won't. You got to be honest with yourself. So that, or I'll try. I always say, if somebody says you're having a get together and somebody says, oh, I'll try to make it, do you really expect them to show up when they say that? Like Yoda said in Star Wars, it's do or do not. There is no try. So that, I think, is another one. And then I hope is already kind of like, I'm not really all bought into this. People with champion mindsets, and it seems so simple, but I can. And then the other one was my coach busted me on this, is I should. She said I should, and I will. They say don't should all over yourself. I should do this, I should do that. No, I will. I'm going to get this done. I'm going to get it done no matter what. I can do this. I choose to do this, versus I have to do this. So watch your language. That's a big one. And a lot of people that work with me, they'll catch themselves. I love it. They catch themselves, like they'll start to say, I'll try, but and even my daughters catch themselves on this too. I teach my daughters this too. And then there's discipline over feelings. And a big myth out there is, I didn't feel motivated today, so I didn't go to do my workout, or I didn't stick to my plan because I didn't feel motivated. Motivation's a myth. All right. A lot of times you have to do, if you let your feelings run your life, you'll never be successful. I mean, that you have to go back to establishing why this is important to you. You have to decide what's important. So I remember years ago, I was coaching somebody. I still remember some of my most significant conversations. I was coaching a female client, and every time I looked at their food log, no matter what we talked about, there was always pop and a big thing of crackers at night, every single night. And finally, as a coach, I just said, you know what? You got to decide what's important. If the pop and crackers are more important than you hitting your goal, then I'm cool with it. If you're not, then there's something you need to change. You need to make a decision. All right. If that's it, then I'll just quit talking about it. If you're happy with the way you are, which I knew the person wasn't, but it was like, oh, I have to have this at night. And it just helps me calm down. It's like, well, it's not helping your cause to drink a can of sugar every night with a processed carb, right before you go to bed. And I knew this. And it's like, doesn't matter what I tell you, until you fix this, we're not moving forward. And discipline means doing the things you need to do despite how you feel. And a lot of times what you're going to find is when you start off, you're not motivated, and you get in the gym, you start moving, and you get going, and about 10 minutes in, you start to pick up, and 20 minutes in, your mind's in it. And then you always feel better afterwards. So you can't let, like I hear people say this all the time to me, and like I bust them out on it. Motivation's a myth. I mean, trainers, we don't feel motivated, but the thing is like, okay, what does a championship athlete do? Well, they don't always feel like training, but they do it anyway to win the prize. Well, we're no different. If our prize is to get to a certain place where we're happy with ourselves, where our clothes fit good, where we like what we see in the mirror, that's the prize. So just like an athlete, we got to do what we need to do, and we can't let our feelings decide that, because feelings are going to fluctuate every day, but discipline cannot fluctuate. And so that's where it goes back to your why, because when your why is strong enough, the reason you're doing this, if it's something that drives emotion in you, you'll follow through. But if you haven't identified why you're doing this, if it's a real shallow reason, you're probably going to cave in. So I always look at that. That's where the discipline comes from. If you have a strong why, the discipline will come. And then there's nutrition for the brain, which what are you watching and listening to? I said that affects people so much. An example is, You know, if you turn on the news right now, you're going to hear all about the recession. You're going to hear all about all this bad, horrible stuff going on, which is going to put you in a bad mood, which is probably going to stress some people out, which stress is a big trigger to bad eating, you know. And I just say, you know what, if those things, those toxic things, just like toxic foods, you got to remove those from your life, you know, identify, you know, those triggers, you know, so nutrition for the brain, so that can be a trigger. And that kind of feeds into number 4 is what are the triggers that set you off, you know. So an example is a client I train, you know, stress, you know, is always a big trigger for people, just to say, screw this plan, I'm going off of it. And that usually leads to not just one, but multiple days of I'm stressed out. I'm just going to say, screw it. I'm just going to go get caught up in my stress and I'm going to eat whatever. And so this person's stress is, you know, this person, one of the person I was training, clutter is a big stressor. I'm sure a lot of you ladies can, you know, I think usually this is a guy actually, but when the house is cluttered, I get stressed, and then I want to eat crap and I fall apart. So this person had some construction done in their house, and their house was in total disarray and it was stressing them out. So when we did our coaching session, one of the things we talked about is how can you create a non-cluttered environment? And what the trigger we had to deal with was that clutter. Well, he couldn't, some of his house was under construction, but what the way to overcome that was, is there a room in your house that you can unclutter that they're not doing construction on? And we came up with, it was like his rec room or his living room. They weren't doing anything. And I said, can you clean that room up and make it organized and neat so you can go just sit in there and be peaceful? And that was how we attacked the trigger. That's just an example of a trigger. There's all kinds of triggers, you know, but that was one that, you know, we identified, like, okay, you know what to do. The eating plan's laid out in front of you. So what's making you go off of it? Well, my house is, you know, the clutter's setting me off. Well, how can we get the clutter better? We can't get rid of all of it. Can we create an oasis? And basically what we did. And then the other one, this is a big Minnesota nice, is people pleasing. We all want to make everyone happy, and that's sometimes to our own detriment. So I can think of Christina, who was in our winter coaching program. She was an awesome example of this. She's a hockey mom and a teacher. So she works a crazy job, and then they have a crazy hockey schedule. And she was like what I call, she was the rock that changed the stream. So she actually would go on these hockey weekends and she would pack her food and she would do the things she needed to do because she was serious about her goals. And I told her this is like a really good thing I tell people, and she didn't believe me. It says, people won't take your goals seriously until unless you do. You got to show them. So if you say you're trying to, you know, I'm trying to move forward, and every time somebody throws something up in your face and you cave in, they're not going to take your goals seriously. And she didn't believe me, but she said it went from her doing that to people trying to sabotage her, to all of a sudden they realized she was serious about her goals because she wouldn't give in, and she kept, you know, doing the best she could to, she'd come in with a plan because, you know, she's in, you know, Hibbing, Minnesota for 3 days for a hockey tournament. She's not going to go eat bowling alley food all 3 days or whatever. So she would have a plan and people would see that. What went from that, people trying to like give her stuff to sabotage her, to like, oh, Christina's coming over. What can we make for you, Christina? You know, how can we help you? And to people like, you know, asking her for help. And she's like, I didn't believe that would happen. I'm like, it totally happens. When they see you're serious and you hold your ground, they're going to start to take you seriously. So don't be afraid to be different and be upfront with people. I know, like, most of the time they don't care if you're upfront with them. A lot of times people like, I don't want to say anything and be weird, but if somebody says, hey, you know what, I'm really trying to move forward, I'm just going to, I'm going to bring some of my own stuff. It's more important to hang out with you. If you're upfront with people, the problem is a lot of times it's communication breakdown. We just think they're going to be upset or they're going to think we're weird. And a lot of times it's our own stuff and they really don't care. And we think we're pleasing them. But, this is something I deal with a lot of clients is they don't want to, every time a social situation comes up, they kind of cave in because they don't want to be that weird person. And I'll tell you what, if 3/4 of our country is overweight, if we want to be lean, you're going to be the weird person. All right. If 3/4 of the country is going one way, you're going to have to go in a different way. You're going to have to literally be the rock that changes the course of the stream. And so you have to get over the people pleasing. I know that's easier said than done, but Christina's a great example. I wish I had her on here tonight and never talk about that, because in our nutrition classes, I would actually have her talk about that to newbies, because people would struggle with that, going up to the cabin with some friends and they like to drink and eat a bunch of crap. And I don't want to do that. And she would actually address that, how she did it, but she did a great job of it. And then realize that, I always say this again, but I reiterate that, is your journey is 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Don't let a bad week or a bad day derail you. One of the ladies I train in my, that I'm doing nutrition coaching with right now, that was her thing. It was like, when she would have one bad week or one bad day, she'd say, I can't do this. And she would just torpedo the whole plan. And now she's realizing that this is part of the problem, it's like every time I have a setback, I just quit, and it's all or nothing, versus like, hey, you know what, step back. If I anticipate there's going to be some step backs, it's kind of like driving to Minnesota right now. You have to anticipate road construction, right? It's hard to get somewhere right now in the Minneapolis area or Minnesota as a whole without running into a detour. Well, that's kind of how it is with nutrition. You have to understand there's going to be some detours, and give yourself a little grace. You only lose when you quit, so I tell people, when, setbacks are part of it, they're part of everything, and the people that just look at it that way and say, you know what, I don't want to make this a habit, but it is what it is. This week we had a work emergency, like, I'm in IT, and we had a major meltdown with our hard drive. And I couldn't, I was on call, whatever you do, that's part of the deal. Sometimes things are out of our control, and that's just the thing is, don't quit. I know, one of my clients, we both turned 50 this year, and she has a weight loss goal, her 50th birthday, and she's going to be really close. And I said, even if you don't get it on your 50th, just keep going until you do. I had a 50th fitness goal, and I haven't hit it yet, but I'm just committed to keep going until I get it done. Sometimes we hit it late, sometimes we hit it early. Just be committed to hit it, and understand that the step backs are just part of the process, instead of like the beating yourself up. Because like I said, nobody that I've trained has done really, has killed it and done it perfect. So I actually threw in one of my success stories. I talked about some other ones. This is actually once on our website. This woman actually was an exercise instructor at the YMCA in Burnsville, was referred in by one of our other clients, because she was getting thousands of steps in way over 10,000 steps a day, teaching fitness classes, working all the time, but yet carrying extra weight. And this is the process we used. We started out with, she tracked her food so I could actually see what was going on. And then we picked out one habit. We attacked one habit. Once that habit was done, we attacked the next habit, then the next, then the next. And it was probably a 5 or 6 month process, but she dropped 30 pounds and she kept it off. And here's the great thing about it, is she was still able to do the things she's enjoyed. We just had to make some alterations. One of her things was too much social drinking, and, not eating anything in the morning, and that was leading to eating at night. So just simple things. And the great thing about her is she's a therapist. So she understands that, when she's dealing with people with mental health, there's a process. Well, it's no different with nutrition, because nutrition is really tied into mental health too. So it's a process. So you need to respect the process. But this, like I said, if it was just exercise, she should be lean, but it was just changing the way she approached nutrition and getting her consistent, cutting back on some of the things. She was still able to have some cocktails every week. It wasn't like we cut all her alcohol out and all that stuff. It was just getting her to the point where she was much more consistent and on the, on track, versus every day was kind of a random day. So it's just one example. And then there's, like I can think of like, even like another guy, I'll talk about Derek here actually. So I'll shelf that. Yeah, that'll get on my habit month. So I'm going to talk about steps to right the ship. So you might feel like this ship in here, where my ship's just kind of rocking all over the place. I feel like my ship's actually sinking. So first things first is, you got to give yourself a destination. What are your goals, and why is that important? What is important about that goal? Why is it so important to you? And dig deep. Don't just say, well, I just want to look better. But why is it important to look better? Because blah, blah, blah. Okay. Because I want to look better, because I want to feel better about myself. Well, why don't you feel good about yourself? Go deep with that thing and figure out that purpose. That is huge. If you don't have that, it doesn't matter what I tell you here tonight, nothing's going to stick. And so when you figure out what your purpose is, that's where you're going to be consistent, disciplined. That's where you're going to stick with it. And then your action plan doesn't need to be a book. I always tell people, they get frustrated, they get motivated, whatever, and they write out 10 different action steps. Keep it really simple. So I have a client named Tanya. She's approaching close to 100 pounds down. I think she's pretty close. I mean, she's going to be lighter than she was in high school, I think, or before she had her kids. She's about to hit a pretty big milestone. But I liked what she did, is she has a really good approach. Her thing is prep her food, get her steps in, work out 3 times a week. And that was like her 3 things she did. Her action plan was like 3 or 4 things every week consistently. And now she's almost at her goal. She's done really well. And it's because she didn't give herself too many action steps and create this overwhelm. So I think 5 at the max, but keep it at the least amount effective dose. Sometimes it's really simple. It's, I'm, starting out, I'm not doing anything. So I'm just going to make sure I get my Fitbit on or my Apple Watch, and I'm going to get, I'm getting 5,000 steps a day. So now I'm going to shoot to get up to like 7,000 a day. And I'm going to pack my lunch versus go to Subway every day, something simple. So keep that action plan really short, and always, you can try to add to it as you go along, but a lot of people at the beginning, they get really gung-ho and it doesn't work really well if you have too many action steps. Number 2 is you got to shop, prep, and plan. And going back to that, there's just no way around it. When you are in control of your food, you're always going to have better results. And if you're not doing this, this is a really easy place to start, just getting ready for the week and making that a high priority. I know every weekend I have to go into, it's Costco, which is kind of like a little bit of hell on earth sometimes on a Saturday, but that's the day I have to do it. So you do what you got to do. And that's I always call it our protein run, because that's where we stock up on a lot of our protein and our vegetables is at Costco. So, but I make sure and do it. I mean, even last week I got back we were in a wedding in Wisconsin all weekend, and I knew Costco was closing when we got back. I'm like, I raced over there. I knew like I had to get that stuff in, because if I started Monday out and be behind the 8 ball, and that's a lot of my clients say the same thing. Focusing on 1 habit a month. So a guy named Derek I worked with in the last round of our group nutrition was his number 1 habit and this is where you got to pick the habit, is you got to decide. It's not going to be me telling you. You might say, well, I have 5 bad habits I want to deal with. Well, you can't fix all 5 at once. Studies show that's 100% failure rate. That's why you see the New Year's resolution crowd just crash and burn every year, because they try to go from sitting around during the holidays, eating a bunch of crap, to fixing 5 habits. It never works. That's why you see at least 80% of the people done by February. 1 habit per month. So what's the habit you're going to attack this month? So Derek, his big thing was, he did track his food, but his number 1 habit he focused on. It's not like you don't pay attention to other things, but what's the one thing I'm really going to hone in on to change? And he changed he was drinking alcohol like 5 or 6 nights a week, like very social drinking. He cut it back. Initially it was cutting it back from 5 or 6 to 3. And he got it down to like 1 night a week. He went from about 225 down to 205 just by paying attention to what he ate. But number 1 was cutting his alcohol back. So 1 habit's pretty powerful. I talked about the girl I just started working with, getting the sugar out, balance, dealing with her insulin, and that was her habit for the month, and she's down 10 pounds. So 1 habit can be powerful. So don't feel like you got to change everything at once. Look at it, like I said, like you're going to get these bricks in 1 by 1 and get these bricks solid. Protein at every meal. So that's a lot of times people say, well, yeah, I'm eating protein, but how much are you eating? 5 grams isn't enough. Like I tell women, a lot of times I see women are really short in protein. So 20 to 30 grams, a good shot of protein. That's about an ounce of meat or fish is about 7 grams. So you're talking 3 to 4 ounces. It's not crazy amount, but a lot of people are coming up really short on that and not consistently in every meal. And then carbs from whole food sources. So, one of the ladies I trained tonight was starting to kind of go towards, because she's getting busy, is eating a lot of the fake health food, the gluten-free, the grab and go foods, like, or even like bars and shakes, which can be good fillers, but I see people start to go to those because they're easy. But whole foods are always going to be your best option. Stuff that takes a little bit longer to cook, stuff that's in its natural state. So like, getting like the rice from the bin versus minute rice, or, getting like a sweet potato versus like Ore-Ida French fries, that's the difference we're talking about there. Stuff that's in its most natural state, not in a bag or a box, but you might actually have to do some cooking, and anybody can boil potatoes, anybody can bake potatoes. I use oatmeal a lot. That's one of my favorites. Quinoa, all these things, that's going to be always your best option for carbs, is your whole food sources. Even, like an example would be like, well, what about fruit has sugar in it? Well, let's think about that. We're talking about blood sugar. Well, pretzels don't have sugar in them, but if you have a game, a Super Bowl game or a sports game, and you're sitting there and you have a bowl of pretzels and a bowl of apples, which bowl are you filling up? Does anybody take the whole bowl of apples, even though it has sugar in it, and overeat the bowl of apples. Nobody does that, but people will take down the bowl of pretzels, no problem. And they'll keep eating and eating and eating that, but it doesn't have any sugar in it, but it's a processed carb. It's not a whole food source versus an apple is. So your whole food sources are always going to make your body work harder to break them down, and they're going to sustain you longer. And so we want to start with the carbs from whole food sources, and then get on FitnessPal or some type of app and track what you want to improve. A lot of them can punch in just a good starting point. Don't worry about being, oh, what's my exact calorie goal? Let's start taking account to what you eat. You'd be surprised that when you start tracking, how there'll be some aha moments. I remember a woman I had a few years ago, and she went on FitnessPal and she realized like she would eat at night. She would eat over 1,000 calories for dinner at night. I didn't have to tell her that, but when she started to track, it was like her eyes got open. It was like, holy crap, I am eating way too many calories at like 7 o'clock at night. That is not a good strategy. And I didn't have to coach her. It was just by her starting to track. And then here's the thing that people are going to like, and you got to do this without feeling guilty, is a refeed day per week. You're actually going to go above and beyond your calories. So like if your calories are at 1,500, I want you at 1,800, 2,000, no problem. You're not going to gain a pound of fat from that. You might gain some water weight. I always tell people, if you do a refeed day and you're a scale person, give yourself at least 3 days to, if the scale is something that messes with your head, don't weigh yourself after refeed day for 2 to 3 days, because some of it's going to be water weight. But the idea there is getting maybe like 500 calories over your target is to keep your metabolism high. And the thing with refeed days is I like to use the rule of 6. Give yourself at least 6 days between refeed days. Don't use refeed days and say, well, I had a refeed on Sunday, well, I'm going to take another one on Tuesday or Wednesday. Give yourself some time before refeed days. And they're nice because I tell people, you know what, have a glass of wine, have some pizza, have whatever you want. Just don't make it a blank check. Eat a little more than you normally would. Enjoy it. I know one of my clients, like one of the things is her husband, she's trying to get her husband to, do what she's doing. And one of the things is he likes to make dinner. Well, what has worked well for her is the refeed day is they plan a special dinner, and they like made baby back ribs, cornbread, the whole works, had a glass of wine or something like that. They make it an event, and that's the refeed day. And I have another woman who did the same thing with her husband. And so it's a refeed day because we're refeeding your metabolism. We're refeeding your mind. We're going to replenish your body, and it works for you in the long term. And, I can't tell you how many people that has worked well for, versus trying to be perfect 7 days out of the week. And having that break every week is a sustainable thing for most people. And, if you have a family like event, like a lot of people have family reunions this summer, great time to have a refeed. You don't have to sit there and worry about it. I'm actually going to refeed today. I'm going to have some hot dogs and beans or whatever the heck they have, potato salad, and I'm not going to feel bad about it because it's part of my plan. I'm going to refeed my body. So that is something that a lot of people is like, oh my gosh, I'm going to eat more calories and lose weight. Yes, I'm telling you that is the truth, because we're dealing with hormones here. So these are some basic steps to start with. I can give people like, I can give you a meal plan and stuff. Like people like me say, oh, I want a meal plan off of this. But I would say this is I can send people out a meal plan. But I would say, yeah, the meal plan's great. But I would say if you don't deal with one of your habits that, maybe it's skipping a meal, maybe it's I'm drinking, social drinking too much. If you don't deal with one of those things, it's going to be really hard to be successful if you're just giving a meal plan. So one of the things I'm going to talk about here is, so I'm talking about some of these clients we worked with. I gave you some good examples, is our Bod Squad program, which we are, which we've done. We started this in January, and this is a program. I didn't make this up. I'm not that smart. I found out about it from my business coach, about one of my colleagues was running this. And there's a woman that created this for businesses like mine because there's a need for it. And basically she created a great template, and we use this template and we've had some great results. So a lot of people I was just talking about were out of this program. So we do this, it's a 6-week push to get some habits in place and get traction on your nutrition. We've had great results with this. So we do this as a Tuesday. For the summer, we're going to do a Tuesday mindset webinar. We're going to do this at 7:30 p.m. on Tuesdays. We will record it. So people are like, I'm not going to be able to make every Tuesday. That's fine. We record the thing, we record it, and we get it out to you. We do that's more of a mindset focused. We do a check-in, and that's where we have a lot of group interaction on that too. So I'm talking about Christina, for instance. Christina was talking about how she dealt with the pressure of being on these tournaments and parents that didn't want to that were doing something else and she wanted to be different. Or like I had one where a spouse wasn't on board and how one person got their spouse on board and shared it with the other person. So we have a lot of group interaction in these webinars. Second one is our Tactical Thursday webinar, which is typically in the afternoon. That's more about tactics. That's more about specific things you can do for your gut health, how to attack, like, like it might be something about like intermittent fasting. It might be a sleep hygiene. It's going to be more tactical in terms of like, here's a strategy to attack this problem. And then we do weekly check-ins via phone. And then we do one once a month. We'll have you come in and measure. So we do 3 via phone, and we do a couple of them of measuring you in. We have you check in person. And then we have a great app called My Coach. And this is all based on this program. It has daily content. It's not like a book. It's daily content because, like I said, there's so many things out there that get your attention. So what are you feeding your brain? So it has a daily lesson. It's short. You can probably read it in 5 minutes or less. And then there's a daily action step you do. So like it might be, okay, today you're going to drink 8 glasses of water. Today you're going to make sure you get outside for 20 minutes outside, get some sunlight. It's going to have an action step every week, and it's all going to work towards this mindset thing. And then we give you a personalized nutrition program, and it's different. We're not going to track calories, carbs, and proteins. It's a point-based system, and it works really well. It's a little bit of an adjustment, but I like it because it gets you to balance out your macronutrients, which are your carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. And it has it laid out for you based on your measurements. So you come in, you get measured, or if you're working with one of us right now, we just take your last measurements, your most current, if you've had recent measurements, and we use those, we plug in your activity level, and you get a customized nutrition program. And it's a great guide. It tailors everything. It has what's called Simple Stupid, which is like, Simple Stupid is a thing that is like, if you want to eat like the same things over and over again, especially during the week when you're busy, it kind of helps you break that into like, how can I make my own Simple Stupid plan? So that is something that we are going to start. I'm going to start it up on the 28th. And why am I doing this in the middle of summer? People are like, because I think personally, I think summer is a slippery slope for a lot of people. We have a lot of cookouts. We have a lot of get-togethers. It's where people can really go backwards. I think of a client we used to have called Brenda, and she quit over the summer one time. And she just said, I'm just going to enjoy my summer. And this is like one of those moments where you go, I know what this isn't going to end well. It was really bad. She actually put on like 30 pounds over the summer. So I think even, having some accountability and, if you're serious about moving forward, this has actually really worked well. We started this with clients. You probably saw the Bod Squad stuff earlier in the year, but this is what it is. It's group based. And we've had some great results. I talked about Derek. I've talked about, there's another lady, Laura, that had good results. Tracy actually pioneered. Tracy, our manager, my trainer and manager, hadn't been able to lose weight for a year, and she finally started to get it to move because this actually exposed some of the things she was doing that were keeping her stuck. So, and this is separate because I feel like sometimes with training, this works for some people. Let's look at your food log. Okay, how are you doing? Okay, great. We'll see you next time. Or do we need to make this a bigger priority and make this a separate track? And for a lot of people, a separate track works a lot better. I know I talked to some of my clients about it because it's really hard to before and after a session, sometimes, especially if the trainer's got somebody right behind you, to spend the necessary time. And this really gets after it, starts to drill down and get those habits changed in place. So I actually have an early bird price going until the 22nd, and then I'm going to increase to 149. But we deliver really hard on this thing. I'm actually bringing on another coach to help me with this thing because the last group we had was really big. So this is something where you go, okay, I got a lot of information tonight, and I think education's good, but this helps with the implementation part. How do I implement all this stuff? And this is where we help you implement it, and you get to work in a group and you get some one-on-one attention, and this is how you move forward. So if you got something here tonight and it's like, you know what, I got a couple great things, awesome. But if you're like, I really want to get serious about my nutrition, I would say this program hands down is the best thing we've done in a long time. And the reason I brought it on is because I saw a need. That's why I talked to it about my business coach last year, because she said, what are the gaps in your business? I said, I feel like we need to offer something on the coaching side of nutrition. We have products, and we have, we check food journals. We need to go beyond that. And this is where this thing came to roost. So I actually talked to my friend out east who was running this, and he's had great results. He actually put himself in it because he'd become the quote unquote fat trainer because he was taking care of all his clients, and he actually put himself through the program. And he looks awesome now. He's in his late 40s, and he looks like he could be playing professional sports. So I know it works even for us trainers. But that's what I got. Any questions? I want to do a little Q&A, and if anybody's got any questions, otherwise, if you're interested in this, you can reach out to me or Tracy, and we can get you set up, because we are gonna be promoting it, but I want to open it up to clients first and see how many we get. And then and then secondly, I'll open up to like other people outside of our list too.
Eric, the prices, did you say that that's per month or
No,
how?
that's just for the 6 weeks. That's for 6 weeks. Yep. It's a six-week program.
Okay. And do you have to be on Facebook to do this one?
No, no,
Okay,
we
good.
do. That's a great question. We use a lot of, we have the app, which you get in your phone. We communicate through the app, email, and Facebook. So we do all three.
And the webinars are just like this on Zoom?
Yep, just like this. I'm recording this one here. It's just like this.
So this is every Tuesday, every Thursday webinars.
Yep, and if you, like you said, Becky, if you can't be there, we record them.
Okay.
So I know everybody can't make, especially in the summer. And even me, like when I started my second 6-week challenge, I was gone. My wife got me a trip to Nashville, and then we had I had my turkey hunting trip. I had to miss a few, but like, if I don't go, I have Tracy, and I'm bringing on a nutrition coach. Actually, somebody I really, you know her probably, Deb Anderson, Doug's wife, is actually a nutrition coach from Lakeville. So she's certified precision nutrition. She's retired, and she's very knowledgeable. So I'm actually bringing on somebody to help me with this specific program because I really want to make this a big part of Pure Vita Fitness going forward. So kind of like training, like we do with training. I know you always, Ryan's always there for you, but like even with us in the afternoon, a lot of times we like, if I'm not available, they train with somebody else, and it's a team approach, but I'm running the program. So.
Okay, cool.
Anything else? Questions, comments, aha moments?
Got things to work on.
Oh, okay. All right. I see it.
Talking about me most of the time, Eric.
Well, me too. We all do. You know what? We all fall short. I mean, I've got my triggers too. Everyone thinks us trainers are so perfect, but I know from dealing with this with people is people just do better with structure, accountability, and then having somebody really attack their, I can think of this last group that went through. I mean, there's a woman there that I haven't seen for 10 years, used to train with me. And when she started out, she's like, I don't know if this is going to work. And she was kind of negative. I don't want this to be another waste of my money. And she's just killing it now. But the reason she's killing it is because we're attacking this. She's getting over this self-sabotage. Another one, she gets close to her goal, then she sabotages herself. And we're dealing with that. So these are the things you got to deal with. That's the stuff no one ever talks about with nutrition programs is everybody's got their stuff, and it's getting rid of that head trash. And you know that from other stuff we've worked on with Betsy. So and this is no different. I feel like this program is pretty awesome. And the trainers, I told the trainers that it's if they're not feeling like they're like this is a good way to kind of take some pressure off them, because now we can just say, okay, we're going to handle the nutrition. You focus on the exercise. We're going to deal with this on a different level where it needs to be dealt with. I mean, some people, like you said, they'll rock it out. They're fine with, they'll do their, but I'm seeing more often people than not need something like this. And I like it because I got this certification years ago, and I was struggling, like, how am I ever going to use this? And this has really put things into a format. And now we have an ongoing program, and we actually keep it going with an Ascend program between. So 6 weeks is done. If you like, I don't want to stop, I want to keep going. We have an option to do that. And a lot of people have, and that's like Tanya. You're probably going to see her pretty quick, hit her big goal, and she's going to be one of our big testimonials of the year. And this is going to be a big part of why. So other than that, ladies, that's what I got for tonight. Hopefully this was worth your time and you got a few things, but I hope, reach out if you have questions. I'm always in the gym, but yeah, let us know if you're in this. I would say, make the decision before the 22nd. We're going to start, like I said, we're going, the clients get the first dibs. And then after that, seeing how many we got, then we'll probably open it up to the other people on our list and our social media. So, and we'll cap it at 15 max. So we always keep it at 15 max, just to make sure we don't lose any quality control. And we were pretty close to that last time. So.
Cool.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks, ladies.
Yeah, thank you. I'll see you tomorrow, probably tomorrow
All
morning.
right, cool. Have a good night,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
All right. Bye.
Bye.